We have been arrested, maybe only temporarily here, because remember this is a strange circuit, and the cars behave strangely. They're very difficult to set up here, and sometimes you get it right, you don't know why, sometimes you don't. And the form may return, but if Senna can put a good result in here, then that will certainly put pressure back onto Mansell. Mansell certainly looked a clear favourite to win. Just a few days ago, before we got here, the form of the Williams team in the past in Hungary, for instance last year, has been extremely good, and this is quite a surprise. Mansell, of course, will not be too comfortable of having been out-qualified yet again by Riccardo Patrese, but he does have the saving grace of that, in that he starts on the left-hand side of the grid, which is the cleaner side of the track. So whilst it certainly won't have done his ego any good, he does tactically is probably no worse off being on the second row of the grid.
McLaren have got their car to go that much faster as a result primarily of three things. First of all, Honda have got both more power out of the engine and have made it weigh a lot less. They've got a lighter tub, that's the chassis of the car, and much lighter bodywork. They've saved 15 kilograms altogether. But Shell have done an absolutely fantastic job on fuel, just as Elf had earlier this season for Williams, and that was Riccardo Patrese. Shell have produced 23 different fuel compounds and for the McLaren team to try, and they certainly rang the bell in qualifying. It was another one of Ayrton Senna's enormously spectacular laps, and his time of 1 minute 16.147, that's an average speed all around the lap of 116.5 miles an hour, was some 0.8 of a second faster than Riccardo Patrese. Now, the Williams cars seem to have got the semi-automatic gearbox, which gave so much trouble earlier in the season, right. That could be quite a significant advantage here. You will notice when you see Ayrton Senna and Gerhard Berger on the on-car cameras, which they both have here at the Hungaroring, that the right hand is extremely busy here, on and off the steering wheel, on and off the gear lever. And of course, when you're trying to take a corner at very high speeds indeed, ideally you want both hands on the wheel, which both Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese will have, as of course will Alain Prost and Jean Alesi in the Ferraris, who also have a semi-automatic gearbox. So again, as they get ready now, the engines are being fired up, the grid is being cleared for round 10 of the 16-race World Championship of 1991, the Hungarian Grand Prix here at the Hungaroring, and it's getting hotter all the time. That's Gerhard Berger that we are with now. In front of him is Nigel Mansell's car, and to the right is Riccardo Patrese as they get away. Now, talk you round the lap. From here they go into a long sweeping, falling downhill, 180-degree right-hander, turn one, that's third gear at about 80 miles an hour in racing conditions, having braked from about 170 miles an hour. Nobody left on the grid. And there you can see the map which shows you how they go around the circuit. Now they're still going downhill as they approach the very tight left-hander, which they enter in third gear at about 75 miles an hour, turn two. Now they're starting to climb uphill, building up through the gearbox to sixth gear. They're doing about 160 miles an hour where that red portion ends, up into the fourth gear left-hander at 110 miles an hour, start sweeping right down through the gears, third gear, 80 miles an hour. Now the top chicane, right and left, second gear, about 55 miles an hour. Then a tiny short little straight and into a series of swinging right and left bends at about 140 miles an hour. Then they're starting to drop downhill again now, and the speed is building up. 140 miles an hour where the red bit ends on the right. They go into turn 9 at about 110, dropping downhill still, which is where they come into our sight on the actual circuit, down to the bottom hairpin, the left-hand hairpin, which is a second gear, turn 10, that's about 60 miles an hour there, and into the right-hander at the hairpin. And there's Riccardo Patrese. Now, he will be very concerned about his start as Ayrton Senna leads them up to the grid. Patrese, Mansell, the rest are well back.
Yeah, so this is the last corner we're just looking at now onto the straight, or just were looking at. It's this corner where the semi-automatic gearbox drivers have a tremendous luxury compared to the people with the conventional gearbox, because out of that corner you've got probably 2 or 3 gear shifts when you're still cornering, going up through the gearbox. And of course the people with the conventional gearbox have to take the whole corner in a much higher gear, because you can't take your hands off the wheel to start fumbling about with a conventional gear lever in the middle of a corner, so they've got much less power out of the corner. So the start of this race is going to be absolutely critical with the overtaking problems. So the first corner, the battle for the first corner, is all important.
Watch Patrese on the left. A lot of people are saying he's going to get there before Senna. I would be surprised, but we'll soon see. Senna on the right. On the left, Patrese. Behind Senna is Mansell. Behind Patrese is Prost. Behind Mansell is Berger. And it's away. And it's a good start by Ayrton Senna. Patrase's got the inside and it's a right-hand corner. But Ayrton Senna did what Thierry Boutsen did last year. He chopped off from pole position the man who was second, Patrese, and it's Ayrton Senna leading. Patrese second, Mansell is third, Prost is fourth, Berger fifth, Alesi sixth, and then Ivan Capelli is in seventh place. And Ayrton Senna has got exactly what he wanted. A good start as Mansell goes through and tries to take Patrese, and already the first 3 are starting to ease away.
Yes, and Senna made a reasonable start, Patrese made a reasonable start, and they were neck and neck, and Senna, in fact, had to really fight for the first corner. He's always favourite to do it, though, from the outside. He just stayed off the brakes longer, and that may well be critical. Now, Mansell was already having a look at teammate Patrese. Now, we know that Patrese is supposed to defer to Mansell. They've officially announced orders, but we know that there are, in fact, orders within the Williams team. But how quickly will Patrese be going to let Mansell by if he does? Patrese, of course, at the same time may not like those orders. We don't think he does.
We'll soon see. Mansell is with Patrese now, but the first 3 are easing away as they come through to complete lap 1. 76 to go at the end of this one. Ayrton Senna leads, commanding at the front. Then it's Patrese, and this is where Mansell can close up on Riccardo Patrese. This is the only passing place really on the course at the end of the long straight into the right-hander, and we are into lap 2. Look at the gap behind. Nigel Mansell, third position to Prost in fourth place. For what it's worth, there's the information. 0.6 of a second between Ayrton Senna and Riccardo Patrese. But Senna can afford to take things very easily with the knowledge that he's going to be desperately difficult to get past, and Patrese is certainly trying.
Yes, Patrese up there putting the pressure on. Early days to do that, but Senna, remember, we discussed earlier before the start of the race, there's no real hurry for him. All he has to do is get the power on cleanly out of a corner and make no mistakes. He's got to go in sensibly and then make sure he's lined up and then hit the throttle. And there's nothing, as we watch from Riccardo Patrase's car, very good view of the back of Senna's car. It's pressing very close. Mansell, in the meantime, is doing the sensible thing, giving them some space, just sitting back, letting that battle develop. And I think this is good tactics by the 2 Williams drivers. Let Patrese do the harrowing as he closes up on Senna now on the last corner, out onto the start-finish straight. And Patrese very close indeed. Now, let's see if the power of the Renault can match the power of the Honda engine, and the Honda certainly look to be every bit as powerful there on the straight line performance as the Williams Renault. And Patrese certainly attacking.
Riccardo Patrese may be driving as selfless a race here today as he did last year, because last year with Thierry Boutsen in the Williams then leading from pole position all the way, He was very much under attack in the closing stages of the race with his teammate Riccardo Patrese second, and Patrese deliberately held up his pit stop to allow Boutsen to build up a 7-second lead, which ultimately resulted in him winning the race. Well, maybe Riccardo Patrese is deliberately pushing Ayrton Senna as hard as he can now on the third lap of the Hungarian Grand Prix, while Nigel Mansell holds a watching brief. Behind Mansell in third place, Prost is fourth, Berger is fifth, Alesi is sixth, Capelli is seventh, Pirro is in eighth position, Martin Brundle is in ninth position, then it's 10th Leto, 11th Modena, and 12th Bertrand Gachot. Coming through now to complete lap 3. Senna, Patrese, Mansell. And Ayrton Senna's just put up the fastest lap of the race, 1:26.5, well off the lap record, of course, and that's Berger and Alesi 5th and 6th.
Yes, and certainly the Ferraris confirming their warm-up form. There's Gerhard Berger, who is running in 5th place. He's in a Ferrari sandwich there, but Prost has got things moving, playing himself in gently, no hurry. He was 4th start of the race. He's now closed up a little bit on Mansell and is settling in. This is a time for these leading drivers really to not charge too much, not hurry, with the exception maybe of Patrese, whose job it may well be to put pressure on Senna to try and push him to cook his tyres and possibly make a mistake. But the rest of them should be playing it in carefully, just watching, seeing how their cars go. There is no hurry. This, I stress again, is a thinking man's race, not an out-and-out charging race. And he that sits back, contemplates the tactics, is going to be the man who finishes on top.
Yeah, and at the present moment, Alain Prost is the fastest man on the circuit, or was on the previous lap. He's closing up a bit on Nigel Mansell in 4th position. Ferrari, as McLaren and Williams, have done an enormous amount of work on their cars. Over the line, into lap 5. No change. Gerhard Berger still in 5th position. Alesi 6th. Capelli in 7th position. And again, now Mansell has gone round faster. But yet again, Prost goes faster than Mansell. And you can see the effect as they start to close. Senna, Patrese, Mansell, Prost. Now they're up to the top chicane in a moment, round the right-hander at the top of the circuit. They're approaching the highest part of the Hungaro ring now. And this is the chicane. Ayrton Senna, and you're looking at him from the cockpit of Riccardo Patrese's Williams Renault.
And really, it's a fabulous view, this, of the driver's eye view. It's a little bit foreshortened, of course, of the McLaren because of the angle of the lens of the camera, and so it foreshortens in and out a bit more than reality. But it really is a very good view of Senna working hard in front. Leading through closed up. Prost is now right up with them, and so the initial spread of the leading runners has gone away. Prost has caught up. Over the line, the race steadily speeding up as things settle in.
Now this is an indication of the form and the skill and the brilliance of Ayrton Senna. McLaren actually freely admit that he has a better car than Gerhard Berger at the Hungaro ring. They were not able to prepare enough components to produce this revised McLaren for both drivers. And the same will probably apply to Honda, whose V12 engine is propelling the McLaren. And Senna's certainly making the most of it. Meantime, Gerhard Berger, still in 5th place, is dropping back from Alain Prost. It's very much a three-man race at the front. But in 5th position, 6th position behind Berger, Alesi is right. And there's a spinner, and that it's Suzuki, Aguri Suzuki in the Lola Hart engine in the British-built Lola chassis. And we're back again with Riccardo Patrese, and this is lap 6 in this 77-lap race. And I'm expecting the action in the closing stages as you look now at the Brabhams of Martin Brundle and Mark Blundell, and it's a replay of Aguri Suzuki going off in the Lola and rejoining the circuit with a flick turn, lots of power, and he spins it round as Senna goes through to complete his 6th lap, and you're looking at Prost, who's yet to win a Hungarian Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna's done the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 25.5.
Yes, and despite that, Patrese is still very much pressing him. And I'm sure this will be making Mansell happy. And that's a view from Mansell's car, as we see teammate Patrese and Senna ahead of him. So this is Mansell's view of the battle. Now Mansell's doing the sensible thing at the moment, just sitting back and watching the two of them fight out ahead of him and let them do all the work. That's good tactics by Mansell. He's not going to achieve anything by trying to climb all over the back and pass anything, except possibly cooking his tyres. Prost in 4th place. Again, Prost, for sure, with his experience, knows there's no future in heroics at this stage of the race. Just taking a watching brief.
Alain Prost there and Ayrton Senna both had a wigging from the beaks, if you like. The top men of FISA, the governing body of the sport, got the two of them together in the hotel in Budapest the night before last. There's Berger 5th, Alesi 6th, and Ivan Capelli well up in 7th position. And the stewards said to Senna and Prost, your behaviour in the German Grand Prix was unacceptable. In particular, Alain Prost, your behaviour, as a result of which you are going to be suspended for 1 race, but that suspension itself will be suspended. But Alain Prost has that threat hanging over him, very unfairly in the opinion of a lot of people. And into the chicane, Senna on lap 8 out of 77, still with Riccardo Patrese behind him. Mansell, Prost, Berger in the background, Alesi still 6th, Capelli 7th, Pirro 8th, Martin Brundle 9th in the Brabham Yamaha, JJ Leto and Modena 10th and 11th, Bertrand Gachot is still in 12th position. Nelson Piquet, the 3 times world champion in the Benetton, who has won here in Hungary twice when he was with Williams, is down in 14th place. The Benetton's not going at all well here. And Prost is starting now, really, to reel in Nigel Mansell. Into lap 8. 1/10 of the distance completed. There's the man who scored more World Championship points than anybody else in the history of Grand Prix racing, Alain Prost. V12 Ferrari, 4th place. 1 minute 25.128 Prost has just gone round, compared with a lap record by Riccardo Patrese, 1 minute 22.058, and that is a speed of 108.2 miles an hour. So, all right, you're leading on a circuit that's very difficult to pass. You can see Riccardo Patrese in your mirrors and probably Mansell behind him. What do you do?
Well, you feel fairly uncomfortable from Senna's point of view on 2 counts. One thing we haven't discussed today is that the drivers will be very physically uncomfortable. That's not won't be unique to Senna. They'll all be suffering from that. It's hot. The track gives no rest for the drivers. There is no decent straight to speak of where the driver can have a breather. So it's going to be a very hard afternoon in the cockpit. Very hard physically. A lot of liquid loss, a lot of physical output, battling the car around this twisty circuit with big G-forces, and a cockpit temperature of anything up to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the first thing. But secondly, from Senna's experience, he won't be too phased having Patrese climbing all over the back of him all the time, because he knows that so long as he keeps it clean, as the new fastest lap for Mansell captioned, remember the times are coming down consistently as the race develops now, as the fuel load lightens. the cars will tend to lap quicker and quicker. But from Senna's point of view, at the moment, he will be trying to look after his car, look after his own physique, right, and relax, because he won't be hurrying. He won't be trying to drive particularly quickly. He'll be concentrating on getting into the corners very neatly without any mistakes, so that as soon as he's lined up at the exit of the corner, he can hit full power. So long as he can hit full power and get a clean exit out of each corner, there is nothing Patrese can do to pass him. So that is Senna's main problem now, is just to keep it clean exiting each corner, and that way his lead is safe, and he can let the others attack him, but at the moment he can just soldier serenely on and try and look after himself physically and his tyres. And of course he's got a lot of thinking to do, though, to decide if and when and whether he wants to do a pit stop to change tyres.
10 laps completed, Senna leads. And another problem that Riccardo Patrese has got, that Ayrton Senna has not got, with Mansell in 3rd position, Martin Brundle in 9th position in the Brabham, and his teammate Mark Blundell in 19th place. Another problem that Patrese's got is that when he tries to get up to and then past Ayrton Senna's McLaren, he will encounter tremendous turbulence, which reduces the downforce on the front of his Williams and therefore reduces the grip of the front tyres and makes it especially difficult to get past. And wherever you try and get past on the Hungaro ring off the racing line, because the circuit is used so little, the track is inevitably dirty, and you pick up muck on your tyres, which sticks to the very sticky, hot rubber compound, and probably takes a couple of racing laps at least to get clean again. But now Martin Brundle has struggled past Emanuele Pirro. He's up into 8th position at Brundle, and we are soon going to see something which, in my opinion, could well decide the course of this race, and that is passing, because Ayrton Senna is already starting to close up on the tail enders. The last man in the race at the moment is Gianni Morbidelli, who is in 26th position. No retirements yet. Morbidelli in the Minardi Ferrari. Alain Prost, 4th place. Senna leads, Patrese 2nd, Mansell 3rd, 2.2 seconds covers the 3 of them. Alain Prost is a 2nd behind Mansell. Berger in 5th place is 3 seconds behind Prost. Alesi is 1 second behind Berger in 6th place. Capelli is still 7th. Martin Brundle has moved up into 8th position, and the Brabham Yamahas are going better at the Hungaro ring than they have gone anywhere else this season. They're getting better and better all the time. So down to 9th goes Emanuele Pirro. His teammate JJ Leto is 10th. Stefano Modena in the Tyrrell is 11th, and Bertrand Gachot has fought his way up to 12th position, having started in 15th position on the grid. No, I tell a lie, because Bertrand Gachot was elsewhere on the grid. 16th position, but Prost. And that looks to me like, I was about to say one of the Minardi. And here's a replay, and I think that there is the spin, and it is actually a Dallara. It's a Dallara of Pirro, and that explains how Martin Brundle got through into 8th position. The performance differential between the Dallara with its Judd V10 engine and the Brabham with its V12 Yamaha wouldn't be very great at the Hungaro ring, but that spin, of course, enabled Brundle to nip through. We're riding with Patrese, and it's Senna ahead, and you can see that Senna is closing up on, I presume, Morbidelli. Yeah, it is Morbidelli who moves past and lets both of them through. But in front of Morbidelli, and Senna's closing up all the time, is Maurizio Gugelmin. And that's Pierluigi Martini in the 2nd Minardi. That's a pity, because they went extremely well in the warm-up this morning. Morbidelli and Martini, respectively 8th and 9th fastest, after starting much lower down the grid. almost at the end of the 12th lap, out of it. And the right-hander, Senna, across the line. Now, Patrese, Mansell 2 seconds behind his teammate. There is Prost fourth. And Morbidelli has now been caught and passed by the first four. Is he going to hold up the 5th position man, Gerhard Berger? So 2 batches of 2. Senna and Patrese. That's the first. There's Mansell in 3rd position. And just behind him, Alain Prost. McLaren leads, Williams-Renault 2nd, Williams-Renault 3rd, Ferrari 4th. The 2nd McLaren Honda of Gerhard Berger in 5th position. And of course, with the Williams-Renaults on a charge and their kind of circuits coming up again, whilst they're not entirely happy at the Hungaroring, the fact that the Belgian Grand Prix follows this at Spa, then the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, Portugal, Spain, Japan, they are all going to suit the Williams-Renault. Although Ron Dennis has also said that by the time we get to Monza, we're going to be blowing everybody away. And that is the McLaren, of course. Well, over the line goes Ayrton Senna into lap 15. And there's a lot of action from the first four. No changes with Alain Prost still there. It's behind, with Berger, Alesi and Capelli getting pretty close to each other, that the interest is at the moment.
Yes, at the moment it's a bit like a sort of unexploded bomb, this race, in that it's all ticking away, nothing's developing. Patrese is pressing hard, but importantly, all the leaders are there, because even after Prost, Berger, Alesi and Capelli are all in striking distance, and it isn't until after Capelli that we get the first real gap. So there are 7 cars very much in contention for the lead at the moment as we look from Mansell's car, and you see just how close the first 3 are. Mansell's closed right up. Patrese is the only one who's really doing anything at the moment, in that he is pressing Senna, but he's not actually looking like passing him. The Mansell's closed up to have a look, and Prost has got a little bit closer, but they've done that a bit before. And again, I should think it'll take a mistake or something like that to change anything. But now we're getting to the stage of the race where the drivers will have had their settling in period, and they'll be starting to look for ways to develop the race, i.e. to get past people, or possibly to be contemplating a pit stop for tyres.
And I'm heartened as Mansell really shows signs of attacking Patrese now. He wants past. He wants to get past his teammate and have a go at Ayrton Senna, who pulls away just a little here. Patrese's got the usual problem, trying to catch and get past the man in front, whilst at the same time stopping the man from behind him from passing him. But I was saying, I'm heartened with the way the Ferrari of Alain Prost is going, after not the best of seasons by his high standards, 2 second places and a 3rd, and he's yet to win in 1991, as have Ferrari for that matter, because Alesi certainly hasn't. And Prost, as you can see, is right in the hunt now. First, Senna. Second, Patrese. Third, Mansell. Fourth, Prost. 5-6 second gap and into the pits goes Emanuele Pirro for a new set of tyres in 8.76 seconds. And that's the first of the tyre stops, and it happened on lap 16.
Well, it certainly looks as if Mansell's decided that he'd like to have a go at Senna himself. He would like to get past. It'd be interesting to see whether Riccardo Patrese agrees with that idea and helps him by, or whether he feels that he ought to stay around harrying Senna himself for a little bit longer.
Well, you can see the race from the caption there is very much between the top 4. And there they are. Top chicane. This is where they close up on braking, but then the one out of it first gets the accelerator down first and moves away a bit while the other man is still braking, and the gap is returned. But Alain Prost is definitely charging now. He was 0.3 of a second faster than Mansell on the previous lap and has therefore closed up. But really there is nothing in it, and you can see, we keep on saying it, but you can see how difficult it is. Watch them on the racing line and see how they occupy the full width of the circuit, and remember that outside that racing band there is a dirty track. This is the end of lap 17 out of 77. Patrese we're with. Senna goes into the 80-mile-an-hour third gear, turn 1, keeps turning right.
Well, I can report now that the lap times have in fact at last tailed off a little bit, which means that the tyres have settled and they've gone off, and they aren't as quick as they are when fresh. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to change them, because there shouldn't be a further drop-off of performance, really. There's not a wear problem here. It's only that drop-off from the heat. And it means that the teams are thrown a further dilemma to consider, and that is whether it would be advantageous to come in, put fresh tyres on, to drop out of the queue, as it were, because most drivers, after all, at the front, such as all except Senna and this leading group, could probably lap faster if they didn't have the people in front of them in the way. On the other hand, by putting fresh tyres on, first of all, they've got to drop back down the field a bit, and secondly, they only get 10 or maybe a dozen laps of the real value of the fresh rubber before it too starts to get too hot and drops off in performance. So there are considerable number of imponderables, and I have to say right now, I'm jolly glad I'm not a team manager, or a driver for that matter, having to work out the best things to do. In the meantime, Senna has got a little bit more of a breathing space than we've seen really at any other stage in this race, but I don't think that's significant at all. He has just, for the first time, got a little bit of clear air between himself and Riccardo Patrese.
Largely as a result of having done the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 23.7. You can see what that's done for him. Out of the top chicane, now they start to drop down. This is the series of swinging rights and lefts I was telling you about earlier on, and it's downhill from the right-hander, which Ayrton Senna in front of us is approaching now at about 140 miles an hour. The speeds are comparatively slow at the Hungaroring. The lap record 108.2 miles an hour. And Senna is coming up to one of the Dallaras at the present moment, and you can see that in front of that Dallara there are two other cars, so we're really going to see some excitement. Bernard, and then Nakajima and Hakkinen and Gugelmin, and they're ahead of Senna, who has gone past the Dallara of Pirro, and this may give Ayrton Senna the chance to pull out more of a lead over Patrese.
Yes, Senna will certainly have been pleased to encounter Pirro there, but Pirro's done absolutely the right thing. He's kept well out of the way of the battle for the leaders, and there's a new fastest lap of the race for Riccardo Patrese, and that's a response to the fact that I just said that the tyres had gone off a bit, they'd slowed it down, but the race has hotted up again, and a little bit of a breather, because Senna had the previous lap put in his fastest lap so far, so I think he'd saved a little bit on his tyres, he'd speeded up, and Patrese had been able to respond, or has been able to respond. So it would appear that there's a little bit of cat and mouse going on at the front, but the important thing is we're now getting amongst the traffic, and the back markers also will have an important part, and possibly even a decisive one, to play in this race.
Yeah, Senna is approaching Maurizio Gugelmin, who is 24th. In front of him is Aguri Suzuki, and in front of him is Mika Hakkinen in 22nd place. Now let's watch this.
And you'll see how Mansell has spotted what's happening and has quite correctly closed up in order to be in position for any dramas, because this is where dramas can happen. There's a big gaggle of slower cars in front of Senna. Senna trying to find a way around Gugelmin. Gugelmin lets him go, and that's allowed Patrese to come with him, and Mansell.
So they've lapped everybody up to 23rd at the moment. Aguri Suzuki in the Lola. That's him in front, is the next man. Senna goes past him. And now the next person for Senna to tackle after Aguri Suzuki is Mika Hakkinen, and then Nakajima. There is Hakkinen in the Lotus. Senna approaching him now. Senna on lap 21. Patrese right behind him, and Mansell. Patrese and Mansell watching Senna because they can sense an opportunity as Senna comes up to lap the slower men to get past themselves, and hopefully for one of them to take the lead.
Yes, so this is big pressure for Senna. He's got to have eyes all around him, in the back of his head, the front of his head, and both sides. Because he's got to watch the back markers, he's got to watch his rear as the others attack, and he's got to be able to anticipate. Big pressure time. He goes inside Mika Hakkinen. Hakkinen makes the space. Hakkinen puts a little tiny delay on Patrese through no fault of his own. He was doing his best to keep out of the way. And now it's Nakajima in front of Senna, and Senna will desperately hope to get past him at the end of the straight into the corner, both on Honda power. Good look at the V10, and Senna is through. You saw the right hand go down then onto the conventional gear lever, and Nakajima has done a good job for Ayrton Senna, both Honda men. He couldn't really persist anymore. He lets the Renaults go, but he's contributed in a small way. Satoru Nakajima just gave a little bit of breathing space for Ayrton Senna.
And now Mansell is attacking Patrese. It's all happening as they come up to lap the tail enders. Senna was leading on the previous lap in terms of time by just over half a second. It'll be interesting to see whether... Now, he's coming up. Now, he's behind one of the Lolas, so that should be Eric Bernard, I think, as they go through. Now, there is Senna. He's got another lapping job to do. And he's passed with one swoop, and so is Patrese. But the Lola moves across, takes the racing line, holds up Nigel Mansell, who nevertheless goes through. And that's desperately unsettling for the chap who's being passed, of course. He's trying to get round as quickly as he can. They're coming out now to complete lap 22. Ayrton Senna, having passed about 4 people, as have Patrese and Mansell behind him, still leads, and Prost is 4th. Senna, Patrese, Mansell. There is Prost, Nakajima and Hakkinen, who, by the way, are fighting for 21st position. And their battle is just as important for them as Senna's, Patrese's, Mansell's and Prost's is to the 4 leaders.
Yes, and Prost lost a little bit of ground to the leading 3 there, in amongst the traffic. That's what we've come to expect, but he won't be unduly worried about that. He knows that when the track's clear, he ought to be able to catch the leading 3 pretty easily. The big concern now going through all those minds, both in the cockpits and in the pit, their various pits, will be whether to go for fresh tyres. Very, very difficult decision. An element of inspiration needed, because it's impossible to calculate. A certain amount of inspired guesswork is required to know whether it's actually the right thing to do or not.
And after what I said about Prost and Ferrari, he's disappointed me now by dropping back. The first 3 are very much together, but Alain Prost is now some nearly 3 seconds behind Nigel Mansell. Prost in 4th position. Berger is still 5th. Alesi is in 6th position. And behind Alesi, as we wait for them to come through now and complete the lap, the first 6 then, and then a significant gap. Capelli is 7th. Martin Brundle is still in 8th position. JJ Leto is in 9th position. Bonner 10th. Gasho 11th, and Moreno is in 12th position. This is Gerhard Berger's McLaren we're with. And he's coming up to take Mika Hakkinen. From the look of things, that looks like the white and green Lotus with its Judd V8 engine. and the 22-year-old Finn at the wheel, Mika Häkkinen, who is in 22nd position. And we're now well into the race. This is lap 24. No retirements. There are 26 still running. Quite a few of them have been lapped. Indeed, they've been lapped right up to 16th position now. Gerhard Berger, who had provisional pole position on Friday in his McLaren Honda V12, only to lose it on Saturday. The course is naturally faster on Saturday than it is on Friday, assuming the weather's good, with more rubber put down. And Berger is coming through to complete his 24th lap. It is Häkkinen definitely in front of him, and then in front of Mika Häkkinen is Nakajima. That battle for 21st and 22nd continuing. Over the line. So there is Nakajima, Häkkinen, and Berger goes past the Lotus. So therefore he has lapped the man who is in 22nd place and will now be going for Satoru Nakajima, who will be driving in his last Hungarian Grand Prix. And Ivan Capelli still going extremely well, yet to finish in a Grand Prix this year. He's 7th at the Hungaroring. We're back again with Riccardo Patrese chasing race leader Ayrton Senna's McLaren Honda on lap 25. Only one tyre stop so far, that of Emanuele Pirro in the Dallara on lap 16. Riccardo Patrese and Nigel Mansell, no further back than they have been, but no sign of really pressing Ayrton Senna for the lead as the Brazilian goes into his 26th lap, and that is Prost fourth.
Yes, and a new fastest lap of the race by Alain Prost. So Prost dropped back in the traffic, but as we predicted, he was given a clear track. He's right there, and he will catch them up, but his problems in traffic, his reticence to attack and pass may well cost him later as Alesi comes into the pits.
From 7th position, this will be the 3rd tyre stop because Gugelmin has also been in as well as Pirro.
And Alesi quickly out again, just there he goes. He very fast tyre stop by the Ferrari team, and he was on the D compound tyre, so he went for the very soft rubber all the way round, and that may have proved a problem for him. But he was stuck behind Berger, and it may be also that his pit stop was partly tactical in that he was making no progress, and he thought he'd go for some fresh rubber or even different rubber. He may have switched compounds now if that wasn't working. So the leaders again, still the train, nothing's changed. Prost in the background there, you see, has got a good bit closer, but still Senna leads, and the two Williamses in close attendance. Mansell looking as if he's ready to find a way past, but not looking in too much of a rush about it, and I think that's sensible. There's no point in tiring himself out. At this stage, there's going to be plenty of action in this race, and we're only a third of the way through it.
Now, I was looking elsewhere at the time when Alesi came in, to be honest, and I didn't see whether Martin Brundle managed to take 7th position, but this is the Lamborghini car of Nicola Larini. We haven't seen very much of him in Grand Prix racing this year, largely because he usually hasn't been able to qualify. But there was Mark Blundell, who had spun in the Brabham Yamaha, and Nicola Larini is well down the field in about 23rd position as the leaders go through. Well, he's in 19th position, Larini, my apologies. There's a replay of Mark Blundell spinning off, but he managed to catch it and keep the engine running. As round him goes Thierry Boutsen in the Ligier Lamborghini, and Mark Blundell rejoins the race. And Brundle, sure enough, is in 7th position as we look at Frank Williams, watching the television monitors and the progress of his cars. There they are. Riccardo Patrese still 2nd. Nigel Mansell still 3rd. But the 2nd highest British driver, Martin Brundle, if my memory serves me right, is higher in a Grand Prix than he has been this year. Real encouragement for the Brabham Yamaha team.
Significant there that Prost took just 3 laps to catch up from that 3-second disadvantage that he'd encountered in the back amongst the traffic. But of course, traffic's going to be a feature of this race for the rest of it. That may well put Prost at too much of a disadvantage for him to get a really good result today.
Now, it may seem incredible to those of you who are watching, but these drivers who are on the limit all the way and driving at speeds of about 170 miles an hour around part of the circuit are actually thinking about what they're going to be doing next.
They certainly are, yes. But amazingly, the business of actually driving fast for a top driver like any of these, the actual business of driving fast must be done on autopilot. You've got to be able to do that with your eyes shut if you're going to be successful, because your conscious mind really needs to be fully available for thinking about the tactics, when you're going to make the tyre stop, working out from the lap times, the various pros and cons, because remember, the driver is really the team manager in the car. The decision is his as to whether he may stop. And I saw a puff of smoke, did I, from the back of Prost's car there, and Prost into the pits. Now, was this a tyre stop, or did I see a puff of smoke from the back of Prost's car? He slowed down, yes, and that looks like a problem. I see a little blue smoke from Prost, so is Prost in trouble?
Well, if he is in any way, I think it'll mean that Gerhard Berger goes up into 4th position. Prost has got a retirement look about him as he comes into the pits, very slow and leisurely. There's no frantic activity to change tyres. Indeed, Alain Prost looks to me as he's out, he retires. So that's the first retirement of the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yes, and that telltale puff of blue smoke suggested something mechanical around the rear of the car, engine or gearbox, and so well, that was more than a little puff. We didn't see that earlier on Prost's car. That's an action replay, and that looked like quite a serious puff. So, a little less pressure for Mansell, from whose cockpit we're now watching teammate Patrese and Senna ahead of him, and the heat off from behind Mansell, so that will help him a little bit, but it's not his main concern. Prost is not the man he's fighting for the championship with.
And you would have seen from that caption that for the first time this season, Martin Brundle in a Brabham Yamaha is in the points. Whether he will be able to stay there remains to be seen, but that's a very real achievement, and Patrese is again attacking. So the first 6 on this, the 30th lap out of 77 in Hungary. There are the first 2, Senna and Patrese, chased by Nigel Mansell in 3rd position. Gerhard Berger goes up into 4th place with the retirement of Prost. Capelli goes up into 5th position, and Martin Brundle is in 6th position in the Brabham.
Yes, and Patrese putting Senna under lots of pressure again. And now there's extra pressure, because if anybody is going to make a routine pit stop, now is the time to do it. We're approaching half distance. And that is Brundle in the pits, making his routine stop. And that is the right time to be making it, so it means he goes out of the points again. He drops back off the leaderboard, but a good quick stop by the Brabham team. Very efficient. Brundle's got out well. He went right into the middle of a gaggle of cars there. He's on cold tyres, remember, as Moreno gets onto the grass. Moreno desperately trying to fight down inside him. And remember, of course, Brundle's got it right. Now, back to the leaders. Senna goes over the line, and still in formation. But now is the time, if Senna, or indeed any of the leaders, are going to make their stop as a routine stop, to make the best use of both sets of tyres, now is about the time to do it.
And Martin Brundle has gone down to 13th position, having here's a replay of Brundle on his new tyres. Roberto Moreno trying to go through and getting his left wheels, and particularly his left rear wheel, which provides the drive, on the grass. And the race order on lap 31 is Ayrton Senna, Riccardo Patrese, Nigel Mansell, the first three together. There they are. Berger is fourth, Capelli is fifth, Shauna Lacey back into sixth position, JJ Leto up into seventh place, Stefano Modena eighth, Gasho is ninth, in 10th position it's PK, 11th is De Cesaris, 12th is Boutsen, and 13th, 9th is Martin Brundle, fighting back on a new set of tyres. And of course, what they're all after is World Championship points, particularly Ayrton Senna in the lead, who is on 10 at the moment, and Nigel Mansell in third place, who is on 6. So Ayrton Senna at the present moment is extending his 8-point World Championship lead over Nigel Mansell to 14 points if they stay where they are. But there's a long way to go in this race. Ayrton Senna is under terrific pressure. He's got to lap a lot more people before the 77-lap Hungarian Grand Prix is over. But the pressure from behind Nigel Mansell on his third position from Alain Prost has been removed, because Gerhard Berger, as Nigel Mansell takes a tear off of his visor, which will have got dirty from the muck that's flying around on the circuit. Gerhard Berger in fourth position is now 15 seconds behind Nigel Mansell. Capelli is still in that fifth position, 7 seconds behind Berger. Lacey is in seventh position, albeit 17 seconds behind Capelli, who, if he keeps going, looks as though he's in for points at the end of the race. Leto is seventh, Modena is eighth, Gasho is ninth, PK is 10th, then De Cesaris 11th, and Martin Brundle 12th position. So Martin has moved up a place since his tyre stop, and he's in good shape to put on the speed now on new rubber. But Senna refusing to be pressured. He is being pressured, but he's refusing to give way to it. Leads at the end of lap 32 now.
Yes, and I was just having a listen then as they went past the start-finish line, where our commentary position is, to Patrese's car, because the engine sounds a little bit, the noise from the car sounds a little bit ragged, a bit rough, and we see no activity in the pit, so one has to suspect, therefore, that that may be a broken exhaust. And if it's a broken exhaust, very often doesn't make much difference to the engine power output. It sounds horrible, but in fact the car runs fine. And this looks like Gerhard Berger's McLaren we're watching from, and he's all on his own at the moment. Berger having a vaguely lonely time.
Berger, who we're riding with, was very happy with his performance in Germany. You remember he's running right up until he ran out of petrol as he crossed the line. But with Senna having the faster car, without a doubt, Berger is not able to match his teammate. He's as high as he could hope to be at the present moment, I think, in fourth place. Although the Williams Renaults are doing better than I think even their own team expected them to do. Now, building up speed to about 170 miles an hour. They come out of that right-handed last turn at about 150 as they cross the line. The speed builds up. You see Patrese putting the power down before Nigel Mansell pulls away and reinstates the gap between the two of them. No change in the first three places. We are on lap 34. Senna lapping marginally quicker at the moment. Primarily, I think, because of the fact that he's got a clear circuit in front of him. But the fastest lap we've had thus far is Alain Prost at 1 minute 23.3, which is still 1.3 seconds slower than Riccardo Patrese's lap record of 1990 in the Williams Renault, when he finished second to his teammate of last year, Thierry Boutsen. And this circuit really suits Patrese as you watch Ayrton Senna. We've got Eric Bernard in the pits at the present moment. There is the Lola, came in 19th place, and the leaders have lapped everybody up to Roberto Moreno now, who is in 13th position. Senna, Patrese, Mansell, 2.4 seconds covers the first three. Senna is certainly lapping faster than the two Williams at the moment, but by such a small amount that it really hardly shows. Now, who is that in front of Ayrton Senna that he's about to lap? It looked to me like one of the Ligiers, in which case it's probably Eric Comas in 16th position. It is Eric Comas. I maligned Roberto Moreno by saying that he was about to be lapped. He's 13th, and Eric Comas, who is about to be lapped in the blue Ligier Lamborghini, is in 16th position. And there are the three men who are about to take him. Senna, on his way, seemingly, to his 31st Grand Prix victory. Now, watch the comparative... now, in front of Comas, Eric Comas, who, as I told you, is in 16th position, should be his teammate, Thierry Boutsen. We'll soon see, out of... And there's a spin! And the tyres bite. I can't see who it is until he gets sideways. It looked to me like one of the Brabants. But meantime, Senna is now up with Comas. And in front of Comas, it's one of the Lolas.
Now we see a new fastest lap for Riccardo Patrese. He's just done it. So he's full of fight, and that's got him back close to Senna, but they're right amongst the traffic now. Remember, the disadvantage is always amongst the traffic for the driver who's lapping them, who's in the lead, because he has to warn them of the arrival of the leaders. And of course, there's a lot of brake locking going on now with one of the Ligiers. They all come through pretty much unscathed. There's Mansell in the gaggle, and he pulls out. Bit of a wave there. And Mansell got caught a bit in the traffic, I think.
Yeah, it was Eric Comas, his rival from Germany, because when Nigel was on his fast lap trying to do well for the grid in Germany, he contended that Comas got in his way and went stalking off down the pit lane to have an interview with the Frenchman. And I think he was giving him a fistful of encouragement to get out of the way as he went past him there. So we're on lap 37 now, and as you can see, Riccardo Patrese has made a better job of lapping people than Nigel Mansell has, and he is the only Williams within fighting sight of Ayrton Senna at the moment, as Ayrton Senna goes through and laps the Tyrrell Honda, and it really does look to me now as though Ayrton Senna is once again showing his astounding mastery of lapping people. We've seen him many times get the ascendancy over Alain Prost in the circumstances that he's in now. He's easing away from Riccardo Patrese, who is now 3.8 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell. We're on lap 37 in this 77 lap race. Still a great deal of distance to be covered, but it's looking a bit ominous for the Williams Renaults at the moment, because Ayrton Senna is very, very much in control. Not only lapping the midfield men now better, but also lapping faster. Patrese, there he is in second place.
I bet Ayrton Senna wishes he felt as in control as you contend, Murray. He's under a lot of pressure out there, but because Mansell got caught in the traffic there, but I think that's a temporary situation. I think Mansell, as soon as he gets a clear run, will be right back with these two. Patrese just put in fastest lap. Senna, I think, has earned himself a breather in the traffic, but as I say, the pressure is by no means off him, and he's got an awful long way to go. As we look at one of the Minardis in the pits, that's looks like a routine tyre stop, but it's a long way to go. There's potential tyre problems to be handled. Worst of all, they require decisions to be made, and inspired decisions of a guesswork nature as to whether to stop or not. There's traffic to be dealt with. There's a long, long way to go for these leading drivers. They've all got a lot of work to do. So Patrese following, a little bit of a mess there, but Senna gets to all right. Patrese follows through. And concentration in a race like this has to be 100% without any drop-off at all. Because it's so difficult to pass here. One mistake will let somebody pass you, and if you do that, you will never get that place back again if the person who's got in front is doing their job right. So it's absolutely vital. A view from Senna's on-board camera now. That's the traffic that he's in. There's the external shot. And he would like to get past this gaggle into turn one, but he's not going to. He's following the Ligier.
Yeah, but the fact is that Nigel Mansell does seem to be trapped. He was 5 seconds behind Riccardo Patrese, who's in second place. He's got up to 5.4 seconds. And Mansell at the present moment just can't get past the Tyrrell Honda, whose driver is keeping it obviously on the racing line, and Mansell is stuck there, and that's giving Ayrton Senna and Patrese the opportunity to pull away. So will Nigel Mansell be able to close? We're on lap 39. Senna goes through. Patrese's tucked up underneath his rear wing almost. Up at the highest part of the circuit. Out of the top chicane. Now look back and you'll see how far Nigel Mansell is behind. 1, 2, 3, 2 cars Mansell's got to get past. And the leaders have got 6 cars to get past very shortly. Leto, Gasho, Piquet, De Cesaris, Brundle and Roberto Moreno. And we're getting well spread out now. They have lapped everybody up to the 13th place, who is Thierry Boutsen. They being Senna there going into turn 1, Patrese behind him. Nigel Mansell is, as James said, definitely closing up now as Piquet goes into the pits. Nelson Piquet from 15th position. Is it tyres? It is not. So Piquet is out to join Alain Prost, and it's been a very unhappy Nelson Piquet here in Hungary for the last 3 days. Not at all happy with the performance of his car. It's been giving a lot of gearbox trouble. And they're on lap 40 now. And it's Senna leading, Patrese second, Mansell third, Berger fourth, 12 seconds behind Mansell, who is catching Riccardo Patrese. Capelli is fifth, Lacey is in 6th position, 7th is Gasho, 8th is Leto, 9th De Cesaris. Martin Brundle has fought his way up into 10th place from 13th. Roberto Moreno is 11th. Nelson Piquet was the 12th, and now it's Thierry Boutsen in that place. As you look at the leaders, Senna. Now you can see Senna is right up behind the Benetton of Roberto Moreno, and Moreno is in 11th position. And then it's so. Senna is now chasing Moreno, and you saw what I said about camera shake there, as Senna goes into the right-hander trying to take Moreno on the inside, and doing so because Moreno moves over. Now is he going to do the same thing for Patrese?
Yes, it looks like he made the space for Patrese, and Mansell meantime has finally got past the back markers with whom he was having so much trouble, and he has a clear run apart from Moreno now to the 2 leaders. So there's the leader, Senna. Patrese. The traffic, Patrese going with him. And now in front of him he has a Brabham and a Jordan. It's Brundle having a good race in the Brabham Yamaha, and we'll get a chance possibly to have a look and see how the Brabham performs in a straight line, lined up against a McLaren and a Williams. So now coming last corner onto the straight. Now we'll see. And the Honda goes past. Senna goes past, but the Brabham was certainly respectable in the straight line, and the Williams Renault was unable to get past it on that relatively short straight. So it may be a bit down on power, but not too bad.
Yeah, and you saw what I was saying about camera shake on the McLaren, and out of the race goes Aguri Suzuki's Lola. So Prost is out, Piquet is out, Suzuki is out, and Suzuki went out on lap 42 in this 77-lap race. There's a replay of the Japanese driver just going off the circuit to get out of the car and retire, with Ayrton Senna on lap 42. Tight up behind him, Riccardo Patrese, who is 3 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell that you just saw. Berger is 4. He's within 10 seconds of Mansell now, and actually lapping at the present moment quite a lot faster than the Englishman. 5th is Capelli, 6th is Jean Alesi. Now, Mansell's got to get past Martin Brundle before he can get back with the man you're looking at. Number 6, second place, Riccardo Patrese, coming through to complete lap 42, chasing Senna. Now, there's Brundle. And Martin Brundle is in 9th position. Mansell in 3rd place, coming out to take his compatriot, and he does so. And now Nigel Mansell has got nothing between him and Patrese and Senna except clear track. It's going to give him a chance to reel them in and resume his attack, or resume his watching brief. I wonder which it is.
Well, I think it's a watching brief for the moment, but in due course it's going to have to turn into an attack.
Which Ayrton Senna is going to have to resist. He is coming up now to endeavour to lap Andrea De Cesaris, who is in 8th position, the Italian driver in the Jordan. His teammate, Bertrand Gachot, is 7th. So once again, the Jordans are putting up a fine show, 7th and 8th places, albeit soon about to be lapped by the first 3, Senna, Patrese, Mansell, and you can see how close together they are now. They're coming down to the slow second gear left-hander, now into the double 90 right-hander to complete lap 43. Piquet's problem, as I suspected, was gearbox. He's had gearbox problems all weekend, as has Roberto Moreno. Their gearboxes were in pieces after the warm-up half hour this morning, and there is obviously work to do there. So Senna leads Patrese, who leads Mansell, and there they are. Berger is 10 seconds behind in 4th place. Capelli is 11 seconds behind Berger. That is Ivan Capelli in the Leighton House with the Ilmor V10 engine in 5th place. He's just ahead of Jean Alesi, who is 6th. Then the 2 Jordans of Gachot and De Cesaris, 7th and 8th. Martin Brundle has been lapped, but is 9th. Moreno is 10th in the Benetton. 11th is Boutsen. 12th is Stefano Modena. And we still have the vast majority of the field running. With Patrese. James, surely, when you consider that these 3 have been driving around like this for 43 laps, it must get mightily frustrating.
It gets very frustrating. It's physically extremely tiring. They'll be very, very tired by now. They've lost a great deal of liquid, be well dehydrated, muscles gone, and the frustration as Mansell comes by, and Patrese clearly let him go. So that is Williams' team tactics, that Patrese has been ordered to let Mansell have a go. They've decided that he's harried Senna for long enough, and certainly Riccardo Patrese has done a very, very good job in pressing Ayrton Senna. But now World Championship matters take over. Patrese has been asked to stand out of the way of the championship by the Williams team after the British Grand Prix, and Mansell has now been, the support has been there for the whole race. Mansell is now on his own to go and have a go at Senna for himself.
Move over, sunshine, my time has come, says Nigel Mansell, and he goes through, and there is Riccardo Patrese on the playback, indicating to Nigel Mansell that he's ready for him to do so, as Mansell does it. Now Mansell is going to be the man whose car and helmet is appearing in the mirrors of Senna's car. Mansell is on the attack. The man who won in France, Britain and Germany the last 3 races is attacking Ayrton Senna, who won here in 1988, and Nigel Mansell himself won here in 1989. So now it was 1.1 seconds between Senna and Patrese at the end of the previous lap. Now it is half a second between Senna and Mansell, with Patrese dropping back. He's 2 seconds now behind the Englishman as Senna comes up to De Cesaris. Ayrton Senna is coming up to try and lap Andre De Cesaris in the Jordan in 8th place, and then he's got to take Bertrand Gachot. Nigel Mansell knows it. He can see just as well as Senna can. Lap 46, 77 lap race with Mansell. Senna ahead. Ahead of Senna, the Jordan, which has got to be lapped by both of them. Pressure time for Ayrton Senna. Who has driven a superlative race thus far. As Boutsen did last year, Senna started from pole, and as Boutsen did last year in the Williams, Senna has resisted attack every inch of the way. So there is the Jordan, and it is coming up to Satoru Nakajima's Tyrrell Honda. They go very wide, almost into the pit lane there. Now this is it. Senna takes the Jordan. Is Mansell going to get through? If he doesn't before the turn, he will have a major problem, but he does so. He holds up, he continues his attack on Ayrton Senna. So Senna up to the Tyrrell. Now, is Nakajima going to give way and let his Honda teammate, if you will, they both use Honda engines, albeit in very different motor cars. Yes, he does. He lets both of them through. This is lap 47.
Yes, and that was good driving by Nakajima. There was no reason to get involved in that fight. Get well clear, let the leaders go, let them get on with it. And Mansell really got the bit between his teeth now. And the charges towards the end of a race that we've seen so often from Mansell. One of the, how's that, Capelli exiting the pits after more tyres. So one of the last third of the race charges. Mansell's really made a name for himself doing that with some fine overtaking manoeuvres. Can Senna fend it off?
Well, the crowd is really on its toes now. This is the last corner of the 47th lap, but Mansell has got to be closer than this to Ayrton Senna before he can try to outbrake the McLaren and get through on the one place on the course where it is easier to pass. It's never easy at the Hungaroring, it is easier at the end of the straight.
Yes, except that Honda seems to have found the answer with power, and as the caption, still 30 laps to go, so there's a lot of racing to do yet. But certainly the Honda engine seems to be keeping the McLaren fairly safe from attack on the straight, in that the Williams doesn't seem to get any closer, despite being in the slipstream in the hole in the air that the McLaren is making. Of course, it's such a short straight, it's all really straight acceleration, accelerating the mass of the car rather than aerodynamic. And a good view of Senna's rear end. Follow him round the circuit from Mansell's cockpit. Nowhere to pass, but close enough always, trying to press Senna into some sort of a mistake. You do that, not expecting to get one very easily, going right up under braking, and now, an ultimate corner now. This is the long right-hander that goes on and on and on to get out onto the start-finish straight. And Mansell closer, that's the closest he's been ever, and he's holding well in the slipstream, and he's having a look down the inside, and that was an attempt by Mansell. Wasn't a lot he could do, but that was the closest he's been getting onto the straight, and he was close enough to at least have a look.
This is the first Grand Prix that has been held since the death of the great Soichiro Honda, the 84-year-old Japanese who founded the great firm bearing his name. He would love to see this race, a great racing man, and one of his engines is leading with the McLaren at the present moment on lap 49, but is he going to be able to continue to do so? Nigel Mansell really on a charge now. Senna has been resisting attack for the whole of the race thus far. He's never had an attack quite like the one he's experiencing at the moment as you look at the McLaren from Nigel Mansell's Williams Renault. Now we're coming down now towards the end of the lap, and that's Gianni Morbidelli in the Minardi Ferrari in front, and Morbidelli is in 19th position. And Mansell's now, this could be Mansell's opportunity. Remember what happened on the previous lap. Senna has got to watch Morbidelli as he comes up towards him. Mansell is in almost an attacking position, but not quite close enough as they go into the right-hander.
Yes, so Senna's concentration now to defend his position is going to have to be all about getting out of that last corner onto the straight quickly. A puff of smoke there from Morbidelli's car, but hopefully he's not pumping any oil onto the circuit, because that's a further confusing factor that we don't really need right at the moment. So the gauntlet is down. We have seen where Mansell is strong, where he's going to make his attack, and that's going to be at the end of the start-finish straight. And the crucial factor is how quickly Senna can get out of the last corner and onto that straight with just he needs that couple of lengths of a breather. With the back marker in front, this could be critical this time if he's going to be held up onto it. And Mansell's absolutely in the right place. He's perfectly placed.
Perfectly placed, and Morbidelli is a problem for Ayrton Senna. They're coming down to the slow left-hander, which leads into the right-hander, which leads into the start and finish straight, and Mansell is closer now on lap 50 than he has been in the entire race. Watch!
And that was lucky for Senna, because Morbidelli went for the pits, so he got a clear run. And he's just got enough air that Mansell won't be able to attack this time. But that was just a sort of heart-stopping moment for Senna, that or could have been if Morbidelli had stayed out, because he would almost certainly have been restricted in getting the power on to get onto the straight.
Now here is another point. Let us remember that for the last two Grand Prix, both Ayrton Senna and Gerhard Berger ran out of petrol. Senna on the last lap, Berger as he crossed the line. Now the Honda technicians, Shell and everybody else with the McLaren organisation have been working very, very hard to overcome that problem. But there is no doubt that the V12 Honda consumes a lot of fuel, and more than the V10 Renault. Nigel Mansell is pushing Senna very, very hard indeed. You can see that for yourself. There's still 26 laps to go, including the one that they're on. It could well be that there will be a very dramatic development in the closing stages of the race, as there was in Germany and in Britain.
Yes, but we've got 25 laps before they, or 23 or 24 laps before anybody has to start worrying about that. And I don't think Mansell is going to wait on the grounds that Senna's going to have a fuel problem as he gets close again going onto the straight. But this time Senna, you can see, has got it measured up more now. He's practiced that corner, and he got the power on earlier and smoothly, and gave himself plenty of comfort, plenty of margin there to head into turn one without coming under attack from Mansell. So Senna, you can see, seems to be learning a way to deal with that last corner to keep Mansell at bay. And really, as you rightly say, Murray, the dramas with petrol and their fuel readout that McLaren and Honda have been having really is not in keeping with the high technical standards of the McLaren team. but let's hope for this race anyway. If they haven't sorted the problem out, they just sloshed an extra gallon of petrol into the car over what they thought. One for luck, as it were, that'll be enough as Mansell presses really close, but this isn't the passing area. It's all a matter of getting himself in the right position for the entry onto the last corner and then out onto the main straight.
And let us remember that in 1989, when Nigel Mansell was driving for Ferrari, he used a back marker in the form of Stefan Johansson in the Onyx to pass Ayrton Senna and win. And there's a lot of back markers still to be caught and passed by these two. Well, Mansell's not going to get close enough to Senna on this lap. They are into lap 53 at the present moment. And Ayrton Senna leads, and out of the race goes JJ Leto in the Dallara to join Prost and Piquet and Suzuki. But there are still a lot of people left in this race, and a lot of them to get in the way of the two who are battling for the lead. Ayrton Senna is actually extending his lead a bit now. Patrese is still in third position, 3 seconds behind Mansell, and 16 seconds ahead of Gerhard Berger. Alesi is in 5th place in the Ferrari. 6th is Ivan Capelli, who's been into the pits and collected new tyres and rejoined, still in the points. Gasho and De Cesaris are still 7th and 8th in the Jordans. 9th is Roberto Moreno. Martin Brundle is still there, he's in 10th position. Stefano Modena is in 11th position, and Eric Comas is in 12th place. And in 18th position, and lapped twice, Satoru Nakajima.
And a mistake there from Mansell. He got it on the curb there. You may have seen the car just jump about a bit, not a twitch. And he won't want to be making errors like that. You might remember the British Grand Prix, a little mistake like that by Alain Prost. He put his Ferrari wheel onto a curb, cost him a spin and some lost time. These cars are fairly nervous over the curbs. And there's Patrese keeping a watching brief, only a couple of seconds behind. And they're coming up on Bertrand Gachot. There he is. Gachot having a good drive in the Jordan. The Jordans didn't qualify particularly well this weekend, but they've gone well in the race. Gachot was very quick in the warm-up. And he is in 7th place. Mansell comfortably through as well, but Senna's just got a little bit of a breather. One of the things that must be going through both Mansell's and Senna's minds at the moment is have they done the right thing in staying out on the one set of tyres, and how are those tyres going to perform late in the race when they're going to be racing very hard and when they really need them, bearing in mind the fact that they will be fairly worn and old by then, and that may well also be a determining factor in the result of this race. So it's really a question, can Senna hold on? If Mansell does get past, he'll be too quick. The Williams is the superior car at the moment. The chassis is working pretty well here, or well enough anyway, to get away. But getting past Senna is going to make sure Mansell really has to work for it.
As Riccardo Patrese comes up to lap the Jordan, which may well finish in the points again. They're in 7th and 8th places, Gachot and De Cesaris, only 1 place off the bottom points position, 6th place for 1 point. And they have been in the points, for the last 5 races, a superb achievement. But into the top chicane, the first 2, with Riccardo Patrese sort of loping along at the back. He's in no danger from Gerhard Berger, who is in 4th position. He's keeping the first 2 well in sight. He's 2.5 seconds in 3rd position behind the battle for the lead, which you're watching now. Mansell just seems to have eased off a little here. Ready to build up for another attack. Lap 54, then 1 is Ayrton Senna, 5 is Mansell, 6 is Patrese, 2 is Gerhard Berger, 28 is Jean Alesi, 16 is Capelli, And then behind Ivan Capelli, 32 is Gasho and 33 his teammate. Out go the boards from the Williams team, which are a visual confirmation of the information that all the top drivers are receiving over pits-to-car radio through their helmet headsets. Mansell fastest then, 1 minute 22.6. That's still 0.6 of a second off Riccardo Patrese lap record of 1990. And the cars are faster this year. That seems to indicate to me that both Senna and Mansell have got something in reserve.
Yes, well, certainly any problems they're going to have with tyres that I was just speculating on certainly isn't a problem at the moment, because Senna and Mansell are both going faster now than at any other stage in the race. Fastest lap by Senna, then immediately superseded by Mansell, who went even quicker on that same lap. And so these two stretching it away from the others. Patrese now some 5 seconds behind them.
After Ayrton Senna had rudely disposed of Alessandro Nannini, who at the time was in second place last year when he and Senna collided, and Senna went on to finish in second place, he was closing rapidly on Thierry Boutsen and was right with the Williams. And Boutsen, who, as Senna and Mansell are doing now, had driven non-stop on the same set of tyres, said he could not have lasted another lap and resisted Senna, who had changed tyres. So we're going to see a very interesting situation at the end of this race, with Mansell getting faster and faster. That's another 10th off the fastest lap, 1 minute 22.5, but still half a second off the lap record. And pole position this year was much faster than last year, 1:16.1 compared with 1:17.9. So there is no doubt about the fact that this year's cars are faster than last year's.
Well, Senna's got himself a little bit of a lead over Mansell. That seems to have dropped back a bit. There's been no traffic in the way, but they have just been lapping much quicker than at any other time in the race. No doubt Senna's still keeping it up. Maybe Mansell's just having to sit back for a little bit of a rest after those couple of quick laps he's put in. The Williams, I noticed, is sliding about a little bit there. We saw him on the last corner the previous lap, and he was sliding about, put it on the curb on the exit. And maybe that if there is a tyre problem, Mansell is starting to provoke it with those extra quick laps. Now we'll look at the lap times, and it's Mansell is a lot slower on that lap.
Yes, the Senna's lead's gone up from 0.7 of a second to 2.4 seconds as a result of a lap nearly 2 seconds faster than Mansell's. And as you can see, Riccardo Patrese now is closer to his teammate in second place, Nigel Mansell, than he was before. So Senna is consolidating his lead. This is lap 58. It's still Berger in fourth position. In fifth place, it's still Alesi, but very, very spread out now, because Alesi's 13 seconds behind Berger, who is 23 seconds behind Patrese. Sixth is Capelli. In seventh position, Gasho. Eighth, De Cesaris. Ninth, Moreno. Martin Brundle is still running in 10th position. Modena is 11th in the Tyrrell Honda. Comas is 12th. Mark Blundell is running in 13th place. Pierluigi Martini is 14th. Boutsen and Gugelmin are 15th and 16th. And everybody up to sixth position, that is Capelli, has been lapped at least once. Nicola Larini, for instance, in 17th place in the Lamborghini, has been lapped twice. And Senna, there is Mansell must have some sort of a problem. 2.4 seconds was the gap, and it's 3.4 now.
Yeah, so Mansell got his act together and went a bit quicker than the previous lap. But Senna is really piling it on. What the big difference is that Senna has speeded up. Another new fastest lap of the race for Ayrton Senna. And Senna is the one who's showing at the moment that he had a little bit up his sleeve, a little bit in reserve. And there it is on the caption, the new fastest lap. And that has given Senna a 3.5 second lead. And for the first time in this race, Senna looks to be as if he may be getting in charge, getting in command of it.
As he comes up to lap somebody who, knowing Senna, will not delay him at all. And yes, certainly, Ayrton Senna has taken the opportunity of good tyres that are obviously still fresh enough, albeit worn, for him to speed up, and that lap of his at 1 minute 22.4 to the nearest tenth is just 0.4 of a second off a new lap record. Although he obviously hasn't got to bother at the present moment because he's pulling away from Mansell, who is actually pulling away from Patrese. It's now 10 seconds covering the first three, where not so very long ago it was 2 or 3, and Senna is coming up to take Maurizio Gugelmin, who is in 16th place and has already been lapped once. He's about to lap his fellow Brazilian and friend Maurizio Gugelmin for the second time. They used to share a house together in Surrey since when Senna has moved to Monaco. And he's passed Gugelmin. And
he'll probably be hoping that Gugelmin, out of friendship, will try at least to delay Mansell for a couple of corners, just to slow his progress a bit. But right now, Senna looks as if he doesn't need any help. For most of the race, he's looked as if he did. With the Williams, the first Patrese, then Mansell attacking him from behind, and him looking to be playing very much the fender-upper role. But now this new speed that Senna's found, still taking him away from Nigel Mansell. They're coming around to complete 60 laps. And we had a quick flash a couple of laps ago, Frank Williams in the Williams pit, and he looked very worried as he goes Senna over the line, and still pulling away just under 4 seconds. His advantage now on Nigel Mansell. Track is clear. The charge of very fast laps by Senna has gone, and I suspect that in doing that he's raised the temperature of his tyres just past the critical point a little bit. But so it would appear in chasing did Mansell.
Yeah, and Martin Brundle seems to be in trouble too. He has lost a place in the Brabham Yamaha. He's down to 11th position because he's been passed by Eric Comas in the Ligier Lamborghini. Well, we have a roving reporter in the pit lane, and he's even now on his way to the Williams pit in an effort to find out from us what, if any, is the problem with Nigel Mansell's Williams Renault, because he must have some sort of a problem to be dropping back the way he is, because there is so much at stake for both Senna and Mansell, as Martin Brundle is lapped again by Ayrton Senna, and that's for the second time, because Brundle is slowing right down, coming into the pits, in fact. So Martin Brundle's got a problem, and I don't think it's a tyre problem from the way he was driving into the pit lane. Now, Senna all on his own. He is on his 62nd lap now out of 77, as Nigel Mansell comes up to take Gugelmin, who of course has already been lapped by Senna. Gugelmin in 16th place, and that's Martin Brundle's Brabham Yamaha going up to his garage. I say garage as opposed to pit because I think he's going to turn into it. Oh yes, he has. And Martin Brundle joins the retirees. A great, great pity that for the team and for Martin. The promise of the Brabham Yamaha with Brundle at the wheel that we all look forward to in 1991, frankly, hasn't been fulfilled. But Martin had gone extremely well in practice and up to the points in the race, running in 6th position at one point, and it looked as though he was actually going to be in a position to get his first World Championship point for his new team. So there's Senna on his way to 10 points, lap 62, leading Mansell now by well over 5 seconds. And starting to look more and more secure for his 31st Grand Prix win. And Stefano Modena comes into the pits. The Italian in the Tyrrell Honda in 14th place. Mansell has still not taken Gugelmin, and you remember how long ago it was since Ayrton Senna went past. The gap is just about 5.5 seconds. Patrese 10 seconds behind Mansell. Williams on their way to 10 World Championship points. But with Gerhard Berger in 4th position, it means that McLaren would retake the Constructors' World Championship lead by 2 points if the 2 McLarens and the 2 Williams drivers stay where they are in the race at the present moment on lap 63. Senna said before this race began he had not been off pole position, and remember this was his 57th pole position when he started this race, for such a long time, and it was really nice to be back again. And it looks as though he's going to be able to say the same thing about winning, because the last Grand Prix that Ayrton Senna won was Monaco, and that was 5 races ago. That's a starvation diet by his standards. So down the straight into the double right-hander, and the gap between himself and Nigel Mansell now is 6.4 seconds. Mansell has got past Gugelmin. We will now see whether closing and then getting past the Leighton house of Gugelmin was in any way holding Mansell up. Remember that 6.4 seconds, the gap at the end of that lap. Mansell, we are told, now here is good news for Williams Renault supporters. Mansell, we are told, has no problem. He is just conserving his tyres. Now this may turn out to be a stroke of genius. On the other hand, if Ayrton Senna's tyres are not giving any problem and don't give any problem, and they're both using the same type and make, it could be quite a different kind of stroke.
Well, I think, yes, conserving the tyres is one way of putting it. I think maybe that when Ayrton Senna speeded up, Mansell went with him. I think maybe the tyres couldn't cope, and that was what slowed Mansell down. But certainly he's doing the right thing, the only thing he can do, and that is to ease it off and try and look after them in the hope that Senna will square the situation by hurting his, trying to get away. But at the moment it does look as if Senna has got everything fairly well under control. Mansell's dropped right back now, some 7 seconds, over 7 seconds behind. But of course, there's still a dozen or so laps to go, and there is time for Nigel Mansell to mount a challenge. That looks like a Brabham's back view.
Yes, they're both out again because Martin Brundle has retired, and that's Mark Blundell, who has only finished 2 Grand Prix this year, 8th place in San Marino and 12th position in Germany. And there are rumours circulating in the pit lane that the Brabham team may be losing their Yamaha engines to the Reynard team, new team, next year, in which case that will be especially bad news for the people from Chessington, the Brabham team. But Ayrton Senna's car, like Nigel Mansell's, is as close to the 500 kilogram weight limit as possible. Closer now that they have dropped 15 kilograms since the German Grand Prix, and that's obviously benefiting not only the car but probably the tyres as well.
Yes, going back to what you were saying then about the Brabham team and Yamaha, I must say, Murray, it surprised me because my view of the situation is that Brabham have produced a pretty good chassis, and they've done a good job for the Yamaha engine this year, development engine. Yamaha have not done a fantastic job for them, as you can imagine, with the reliability, a new engine and not much power. But certainly I think the chassis is a good one for the engine to run in, and I would have thought that Brabham have every right to feel pretty miffed about being deserted, just as they've done all the work and handled the teething problems of a new engine. There's Blundell's car being finally manhandled off the track. It wasn't the tidiest piece of parking, but of course it was stalled and he was stuck. So back to Ayrton Senna now, well over 8.5 seconds. Well, there it is on the caption, his lead over Mansell, and I'm beginning to doubt very much whether these Mansell and Patrese have got enough quality rubber left on their tyres to mount a late race challenge.
Yeah, I'll drink to what you were saying about Brabham and Yamaha, and it certainly does look as though if Nigel Mansell is conserving his tyres, he's conserving them to get second place rather than first, because with nearly 9 seconds, well, we'll soon know, because Senna was 8.7 seconds ahead of Mansell as he completed the previous lap, lap 65. He just completed lap 66, and he's now got 11 laps to go, including the one he's on in this 77-lap race. And as Mansell crosses the line, the gap has increased to 9 seconds. There is Gugelmin. Behind Gugelmin, who is in 13th place, is Stefano Modena in 14th position. So the Tyrrell Hondas aren't doing at all well either in this race. That is Riccardo Patrese, 13 seconds behind Nigel Mansell. The first 3 positions at the present moment, barring a mechanical problem, look to be set as Ayrton Senna comes up. That looked to me as though it was Ivan Capelli's Leighton House in 6th position. Certainly should be, because Senna has lapped Gasho, who is in 7th place, and De Cesaris, who is still running in 8th position, in the second Jordan. And now it is Capelli. Capelli coming down towards the end of lap 67. And the 2 Jordans, which are in 7th and 8th places, are being attacked by Roberto Moreno, the Brazilian compatriot of Ayrton Senna, the race leader. And Moreno in the Benetton Ford is right up with the 2 Jordans. We're watching Senna, but I can tell you that that's what's happening. Nigel Mansell, second place, 10.5 seconds behind Senna, on his 68th lap out of 77. Nigel Mansell in the famous Red 5, 3 wins this year, and that is Mark Blundell's Brabham Yamaha, parked by the side of the circuit. Wins for Mansell in France, Britain and Germany. Second places in Monaco and Mexico. And out goes one of the Minardis. Whether it's Martini or Morbidelli, I will tell you in a moment. It's Martini. Pierluigi Martini, then the Italian in the Minardi, out of the race, and he was in 11th position. And the race order now, on lap 68 out of 77, is Ayrton Senna commandingly in the lead. Steady on, chaps, where you squirt those fire extinguishers. They make an awful mess of the engine. But Senna leading Mansell by 10.5 seconds. And Mansell is 12 seconds ahead of Patrese, third. Berger is 12 seconds behind Patrese in 4th position. Alesi is 6 seconds behind Berger. And then in 6th position, it's Capelli, who's been lapped by the leaders. 7th Gasho, 8th De Cesaris. 9th and right behind them is Roberto Moreno. 10th Comas, 11th Boots, and 12th Pierluigi Martini. And you can tell from the camera mounted on the front fairing of the Williams that it's Mansell's car. We haven't actually seen a shot from that camera today, looking back at Nigel Mansell's face. That camera was first used in that position in the British Grand Prix. And Senna is very much on his victorious way now. I hope whoever is smoking there is not laying oil all over the circuit, but it is extremely likely that he is. I think he's taking the convenient way back to the pits instead of getting out and walking, because that engine looked to me as though it was about to let go. It's one of the Ligiers, and I think it's Thierry Boutsen. And De Cesaris has passed Bertrand Gachot, his teammate. He's in 7th position now. Race order then on lap 69. Senna, Mansell, Patrese, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. You're watching the McLaren complete another lap. Berger 4th, Alesi 5th, Capelli is 6th, and showing every sign of not only finishing his first Grand Prix this season, Capelli I'm talking about, but finishing it in the points, which will be some recompense. Blue flags being waved by the marshal to indicate to Comas that Senna is right behind him and wants through, and the Frenchman moves over. Now it is Thierry Boutsen's Ligier whose Lamborghini engine is smoking. You can see it all the way there. Now, it may, of course, be just a few drops of oil on the exhaust pipe or something like that, but if it's not, and Boutsen can see that oil smoke, it's really pretty irresponsible driving, because he ought to be coming in.
Yes, one has to hope that it's just dropping onto the exhaust, as you say, and making a lot of smoke for rather little oil. It's not actually getting onto the track, but of course, if it's dropping out fast enough to make any oil on the track, he won't be with us for much longer, because the engine runs out of oil fairly quickly, and then it doesn't last very long at all before it goes bang. There we see the caption, and Senna really looking very comfortable now. I don't think Mansell has got a response. I think the tyres are pretty much shot on the Williams Renault. There's not a lot he could do to pursue. And Senna has likewise slowed down a fair bit himself, and still got a very comfortable lead over Mansell of over 11 seconds.
Yeah, and there's going to be a bit of a dilemma in the Williams pit soon, I think, because Patrese is closing in third position on his teammate Mansell at the rate of 1.5 seconds a lap. He's only 8.7 seconds off Mansell now, and he's soon going to be with the Williams. We're on lap 71 out of 77 now. I suspect that they will finish in the order that they are, that is to say Mansell second and Patrese third, but I would imagine that Patrese would in any case over his headset be told to hold station, because those extra 2 points, the difference between 6 for second and 4 for third, could be vital to Mansell's World Championship chances, as into the pits comes Bertrand Gachot in the Jordan from 9th position, because Roberto Moreno has got past. In fact, now, here we are.
Yes, you see Senna following the smoky Ligier. And we can see the plume of smoke from Ligier there. Now let's see if he's getting any oil on the camera lens. And I don't think there's too much of a haze of oil going out there. But at this stage now, Senna's looking pretty comfortable, and I think it's reasonable for Boutsen to be pressing on to try and finish the race, hoping that the problem isn't too serious. But not a problem for Senna. He can afford to be cautious now. He's got over 10 seconds still on Nigel Mansell. And I don't think he feels under threat. He's got a fair bit of speed in hand if needs be.
Yes, and how are the mighty fallen, because the turn of the Grand Prix wheel has seen Thierry Boutsen, who won last year in a Williams, from Ayrton Senna, with about this much gap between them at the end of the race, now down in a very poor 10th position in his Ligier, having already been lapped once by his friend Ayrton Senna, and surely about to be lapped twice. And if Boutsen is throwing out more oil than it looks as though he is, well, I was going to say, look, the camera and the film across the lens will show what sort of a state Ayrton Senna's visor is in. And that Ligier looks to me to be in a pretty bad way, or the Lamborghini engine looks to be in a pretty bad way, with Ayrton Senna now on his 72nd lap. Only 5 laps to go, including the one that he's on now, to his 31st Grand Prix victory, closing up on Thierry Boutsen to lap him for the second time, 10th place. Mansell is now 10 seconds behind Senna and only 7 seconds ahead of Riccardo Patrese. But the rate of closing of Riccardo Patrese, which is 1 second a lap now, is not enough to enable him to challenge Mansell for second place, even if he felt disposed to do so. And Riccardo is certainly the perfect gentleman, and I can't see him deliberately trying to take World Championship points from the man who could still win the championship, Nigel Mansell, notwithstanding the fact that Senna is again going to beat him. Because, as I said earlier, the circuits in Belgium, and Spa, in Italy at Monza, in Portugal at Estoril, in Spain, the new one at Barcelona, in Japan at Suzuka, and the last Grand Prix of the year, Adelaide in Australia, are all going to suit the Williams-Renault combination better than this Hungaroring. Senna is past Boutsen. And now he passes the Lamborghini of Nicola Larini, who is still running, and that'll be good news for the Lamborghini team, because between them, the two drivers have only finished 2 Grand Prix this year. And Bertrand Gachot is on his new tyres. That's the reason for it. Mounting an attack. And the Belgium is in 9th position. He's trying to retake the 8th position from Roberto Moreno and get back with his teammate Andrea De Cesaris. We're on lap 74. And it certainly has been a copybook drive by Ayrton Senna. Just look, clear track, and off goes the Ligier, and not a second before time of Thierry Boutsen, whose Lamborghini V12 has decided to call it a day, having been struggling for a good few laps. And it was Thierry Boutsen who made that classic remark in Germany after criticism that every Grand Prix driver who complains ought to be made to drive a Ligier, because then he would discover what, in Boutsen's view, is a truly awful motor car. So Ayrton Senna goes through to complete his 74th lap. He has only got laps 75, 6 and 7 to go now. And the gap between himself and Nigel Mansell is 11 seconds. And as I said earlier on, if Senna and Berger stay 1st and 4th, and Mansell and Patrese stay 2nd and 3rd, the McLaren team will retake the Constructors' World Championship leadership from Williams, who led when this race began by 1 point, and McLaren would then be 2 points ahead of Williams, having lost to the leadership in the Constructors' Championship for the first time in 40 races. An amazing achievement. Alesi is still 5th, and sadly, although Prost was challenging in 4th place for quite a long time at the beginning of the race, neither of the Ferraris, again in the 10th race of the year, have shown any real signs of getting back to the front.
Yes, well, dealing with Alesi first, what worked for him in Germany, which was to take the more conservative, harder compounded tyre, that tactic of gambling on tyres worked in Germany but failed here, and I would think that Alesi's relative disappointment in the race was a lot to do with his tyre choice. Prost was certainly quick on his own while he lasted, was as quick as anybody on the circuit, and he was running with that leading group of Senna and the two Williamses. But of course, when we got to the traffic, he dropped back, and he never really looked, once we got amongst the traffic, as if he was going to be a feature in the battle for the outright lead, although he was always going to be there. And then, of course, his car let him down, an apparent mechanical failure, and that was the end of it for Alain Prost. But for speed, they didn't look too bad, but they never really looked to threaten. But Senna still now looking very comfortable indeed, taking it easy, and I'm sure he will now be watching his fuel readout with some trepidation, and not trusting it an inch, I wouldn't have thought. I should think he'll be on maximum batten down, use as little fuel as possible for the last couple of laps.
Yes, here. He's had 2 bitter experiences in Germany and Britain, where his computer readout told him he was all right, and the result told him he was all wrong. 4th place in Britain and 7th place and no points in Germany. But he's on his last lap but one now. He's about to start his last lap. And he can take it very, very steadily indeed, because he's some 12 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell. And although the recent positions between Williams and McLaren have certainly been reversed here, there is Mansell in the background starting his last lap, coming up behind Mika Hakkinen. I don't think the Williams team are actually going to be terribly disappointed, because as I said earlier on, they weren't expecting to do all that well here, and they might have had to be content with third and fourth if Berger had gone better.
Yes, I would hold with that, Larry, in that certainly this race is not a pointer for form. It's not a pointer for form for the rest of the year. It's an interesting revival by McLaren, and certainly they are making a response to the superior speed of the Williams, but the Williams again proved that in some ways it was the quickest car here in the race, although Senna managed to drive the better tactical race, look after his tyres better and hold on for a comfy win. Williams still look strong, and they will be strong come the other races, but certainly a very good result for McLaren Honda to stem the Williams tide.
Ayrton Senna has definitely slowed down on this, his last lap. You can see that the Ligier and the Lotus behind him that he has lapped twice are closing up on him, but he hasn't got to worry this time. He really could coast home now when he's into and almost out of the last corner to win his 31st Grand Prix with victory in Hungary and to extend his World Championship lead over Nigel Mansell by 4 points. From 8 points to 12 points, and the winning margin of Ayrton Senna came down thanks to his slow down last lap to 4.5 seconds. Nigel Mansell has finished second, Riccardo Patrese has finished third. So we just wait now for Gerhard Berger. Well, he's home, both the McLaren's home, both the Williams home. Now it just waits for Alesi, who crosses the line in 6th position, and Ivan Capelli has finished his first Grand Prix of 1991 in 6th place to score a World Championship point. Well, a race has been dominated by Ayrton Senna every inch of the way. That's the confirmation of what I have just been saying. And with Mansell second, and then his second, his Williams car teammate Riccardo Patrese in third place. Just one Ferrari in the top 5, one Leighton House in the top 6, and that is a good result. But tremendous encouragement for the McLaren organisation. They had a very rough time after Canada when Patrese won in Mexico, and then Nigel Mansell won 3 on the trot. And they have fought back. They haven't laid down and let the competition walk all over them. Ron Dennis whipped his merry men into shape. Shell have produced the right fuel, and Honda have produced the right engine, and between them they have all taken the lead now in the Constructors' Championship. Back again to McLaren. But as James has said, the 1991 season is a long, long way from being finished. Senna will be breathing a sigh of relief that he's won this race. And there is the championship situation now. 12 seconds lead for Ayrton Senna over Nigel Mansell. But definitely the World Championship now is between those two men.
Nämlich Alesi mit 14 Punkten.
Neste Grande Prémio da Hungria verificou-se de novo uma supremacia do Jordan face aos Benetton, e de Césares conseguiu ficar à frente de Moreno. Gachot ficou logo a seguir na 9ª posição, mas isso deveu-se a uma mudança de pneus tardia também, já na parte final da corrida.
Obrigado, José Miguel. Enquanto que não temos o Ayrton Senna no pódio, já viram há pouco a classificação do Mundial. Depois desta prova, 61 pontos para o Senna, 49 para o Mansell, 32 para o Patrese, depois com 22 o Berger, 21 o Prost e 18 o Piquet. Vamos novamente passar esta emissão para Lisboa, para o último bloco de publicidade. Voltaremos logo de seguida. Até já! E aqui estamos de novo em direto a partir do Hungaroring. São as imagens finais deste Grande Prémio da Hungria. A classificação final: Senna, Mansell, Patrese, Berger, Alesi, Capelli, os 6 homens colocados nos pontos, depois de Cedric,